Welcome back. We're still thinking about what it means to live in covenant faithfulness or not. So, a question for you. What would you say is the basis, the foundation of your ethical system? What's the basis of the moral philosophy most prevalent in our society? We've got the Hippocratic Oath, do no harm, so never mind, so long as no one gets hurt. Or maybe Aristotle's golden means. In all things, moderation. Or utilitarianism's greatest good for the greatest number. Or relativism's nothing is inherently good or evil. That may be your truth, this is my truth. Well, in the First Testament and the next, ethics is, in the first place, related to God Himself. See, the standard is His character, His purpose, His activity. But we've seen how Genesis, set in a socio-historical context that was replete with gods of all sorts, begins to reveal a distinct referent for this generic noun, God. See, the God of the Bible is not one among many. He's not first among equals. The God of the Bible is one of a kind, completely distinct, totally other. And we saw this God reveal Himself personally as Yahweh, I am who I am. So the Torah teaches in Deuteronomy 4, to you it was shown that you might know that Yahweh is God, there is no other beside Him. Know therefore today and lay it to your heart that Yahweh is God in heaven above, on earth beneath, there is no other. So we think about this name of God, Yahweh, this personal name of God. I'd like to kind of put our discussion of this worldview and ethics and what it means to live in covenant relate. Well, this is not totally unrelated, but I'd like to do a little sidebar on the name of God. You may know that it was because God's personal name, Yahweh, was so revered, they took it so seriously, that when they heard the instruction, don't take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, it became a tradition not even to say it out loud. So instead, whenever a reader of Torah would come to Yahweh's name in Scripture, they would instead say, Adonai, Lord. And so the scribes marked Yod He Vav He, the consonants of Yahweh, with the vowels of Adonai, A-O-A. And that's why our English rendering Jehovah or Yahovah comes into form. But that's not what's important. Here's another issue. My take on Exodus 27, don't take the name of Yahweh your God in vain, is that this is not merely a prohibition against using God's name as an expletive or a curse. You'll come to see that name in the First Testament often refers to the character, the reputation, the authority, the power of a person. We still have vestiges of that concept when we refer to not besmirching someone's good name. We're not talking about Joe or Mary or Philip. We're talking about their reputation. Or when someone gets a bank loan on their signature. See, their collateral then is not a piece of real estate or other tangible asset. It's their character, their reputation. Or when a law officer calls, open up in the name of the law. What are they referring to? It's the authority. So, When I stew about a difficult situation that I regard as beyond anything God can do, I'm taking God's name as useless, meaningless, vain. When I shrug at a sunrise or yawn at a display of spring blossoms or summer crops coming up or beautiful autumn foliage or an intricate snowflake, I take God's name, His character, His creativity, His power as meaningless, vanity. Think about that. Back to our main conversation. So, if God be God, then idolatry is unethical. And since God took the initiative to love and to express His love, not merely with a Hallmark card, but in real-time acts and in a real context of relationship, what's my ethical response? To love Him back. And it's only in this context that God then articulates His righteous expectations, as we saw previously. And His people, in covenant relationship, get to respond in faith and love Him back. So, you remember that still in the other Testament, we're reminded that we love because He first loved us. And if you love me, Jesus said, you'll keep my commandments. So, Exodus graphically recounts God's redeeming grace, His forgiving grace, His sustaining grace as the grounds of a responsive ethic. Then, I think we need to notice in these narratives how the flourishing of this covenant relationship is in direct correlation to God's faithfulness. So in Exodus 34, the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord, a God merciful, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in steadfast love and faithfulness, keeping steadfast love for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgressions and sin, but will by no means clear the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers on the children and the children's children, to the third and fourth generation. So, as covenant-related image bearers, believers get to reflect God's character in His actions. Deuteronomy 15. If among you one of your brothers should become poor in any of your towns within your land that the Lord is giving you, you shall not harden your heart or shut your hand against the poor brother, but you shall open your hand to him, lend him sufficient for his need, whatever it may be. Take care, lest there be an unworthy thought in your heart. Why? Deuteronomy 15, verses 14 and 15. As the Lord your God has blessed you, you shall give to him. Remember that you were a slave in the land of Egypt, and the Lord your God redeemed you. So you get it? This ethic of gratitude to God preempts greed. Rather, it gets expressed in this ethic of generosity to others. Think about it. We'll see you in a bit.